greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said.
Hello everyone, No One of Consequence here, back again with a new video. This is episode 45 in a series which recounts my ongoing Dungeons & Dragons campaign, which is now in its 9th year. If this is your first visit to my channel, you might want to go back and start with part 1 of the series so everything will make more sense. So as always, spoiler alert, in this video I will be revealing details found in this adventure module. And just as a reminder, this is the current makeup of the adventuring party. Where we left off last time, the characters were heavily engaged in combat in what they hoped would be their final foray into the Frost Giant lair, but unfortunately, as we left off last time, Niobe, the party cleric, under relentless attacks from various monsters, had been knocked down to a full negative 26 hit points. So she was down and dead. Now, about this time, the Frost Giant Jarl himself, as well as his queen, suddenly appeared and began fighting the characters. And you can't see them very well because the next screenshot I took showed what had happened as soon as they arrived. Gorbadoc, the halfling, pointed out there at the top of the screen, used one of his Halloween reward items, illustrated there on the screenshot, and he threw the entire packet of pumpkin seeds at the Jarl and his queen, and they exploded in a small fireball, again as per the description there on the screen. And then also in the same round, Thorol used a Christmas gift item that he had called a fruitcake of the gods, and he administered that to Niobe. Because if you'll note in the description, it says that it can even revive a dead character if it is administered within 3 rounds of the character's death. And so that's what Thorol did and managed to save Niobe and bring her back. Meanwhile, the Frost Giant Queen, in a jealous rage, began focusing her attacks on the Storm Giant. And if you remember from a couple of episodes back, the reason the the Storm Giant was being held captive here was the Jarl wanted to make her his concubine. So anyway, the Frost Giant Queen began attacking the Storm Giant and quickly took her down, leaving her bleeding out and dying. However, the Jarl himself pointed out here, he was intent on finding out whoever it was that was responsible for that fireball attack and getting his revenge on them. The Jarl spotted Thorol and correctly guessed that he was a magic user, but he incorrectly assumed that Thorol was responsible for the fire attack. And so, swinging his great 2-handed sword, the Jarl began hacking away at Thorol, and pointed out there in the chat window, you can see the amount of damage that he administered to Thorol in just one single attack. And then, meanwhile, the Frost Giant Queen, now that the Storm Giant was down, she began focusing her attacks on Obrak and Varys. Garrett, hiding down in the shadows off to the south, pointed out there on the screenshot, was using his crossbow, and he managed to score both a critical hit and a fumble in the same round. And keep in mind, the party is still hasted at this point, so everyone, including Garrett, is able to make 2 attacks per round. The Frost Giant Queen brought Varys down to exactly 0 hit points. You can see his health bar pointed out there, and so he went down and unconscious. And meanwhile, the Jarl continued attacking Thorol and put him in negative hit points too. But since the Jarl was focusing on Thorol, he was ignoring Niobe, and she used the opportunity to cast a Blade Barrier spell, which you can see there on the screenshot and in the description for it in the chat window. Meanwhile, the other characters continued to fight, and you can see a couple of more critical hits that they had rolled there, pointed out in the chat window. The Blade Barrier spell had the desired effect on the Jarl. He took some very heavy damage from it, and he ended up fleeing the cavern, even abandoning his queen. While doing so, Niobe, now that the Jarl was gone, Niobe quickly put some healing on Thorol to put him back in positive hit points, and then she ran down to help the others fight the Frost Giant Queen. So now you had everyone. The Queen was the only one left, so everyone was focusing their attacks on her, although Niobe accidentally rolled a fumble and ended up inflicting damage on herself. But eventually, with that many focusing on the Queen, she was finally defeated. So everyone gathered up, and Niobe cast her mass heal spell and got everyone some hit points back, and she even managed to save the Storm Giant before she fully succumbed to her wounds and died. So next, the characters began pursuing the fleeing Frost Giant Jarl, who, because of the Blade Barrier attack, had left a clear blood trail through the depths of his lair. So the character started following that blood trail. And this screenshot just shows another view of them, of the characters following the trail. And still further deeper into the Jarl's personal quarters. The Frost Giant Jarl's trail abruptly ended at what appeared to be some kind of a teleportation portal. So since the Jarl had clearly escaped, the characters next began focusing on exploring and looting his personal quarters, and you can see pointed out around on the screenshot there various characters checking out chests and other containers that were located in the Jarl's personal quarters, along with a lot of treasure. The characters also found some of the Jarl's personal papers pointed out there on the table, and among these were what appeared to be orders to the Jarl, written in the language of fire giants and signed by someone named King Snurry Ironbelly. And Garrett was able to read these documents because he now has the high-level thief ability to read languages. And this screenshot just shows another view of the characters finishing exploring the lair, and even Gorbadoc, who as always can't help himself, and perched up on top of the Frost Giant Jarl's throne. So the characters decided that they would rest and recover right here in the Jarl's personal quarters, and then they would try to figure out how to return back to civilization. So the Storm Giant went back to the character's hideout cave, and she returned carrying all of their remaining supplies and the previously gathered loot, which are all pointed out there on this screenshot. And she also brought back with her the rescued prisoners, pointed out there. And then once that was done, the Storm Giant once again thanked the characters for rescuing her. And then she departed to return to her own people. So finally, the characters decided to use that magic chain that they had found in the Hill Giant fort and see where it would take them. And it did not transport them back to town like they had hoped, but it did return them to the now deserted Hill Giant fort. And so this was close enough for the party to use a pumpkin carriage to travel the rest of the way back to the town of Lorish. And it may be that they actually used two in order to transport everyone. And I'll point out this particular adventure session took place in late September of that year, so the players were motivated to use up any remaining Halloween reward items they had before they expired. So using the pumpkin carriages, the party found themselves dropped in the center of the city of Lorish, surrounded by all the bags and chests of treasure that they had taken from the Frost Giants. So they promptly rousted Quan and Jasmine out of the inn and instructed them to help carry all the treasure into the bank across the street. And then Aramis gave the rescued families some money, and they departed to make their own way back home. Because if you remember, they were actually originally taken prisoner by Hill Giants. So by being here in Lorish, they were actually not that far from where they lived. So the party just gave them some money and they went on their way. And then after that, Aramis, along with Quan and Jasmine, supervised the depositing of all the treasure in the bank while the rest of the characters went to the inn. At the end, Gorbadoc opened one of the scroll tubes he had found in the Jarl's lair, but it was only contained a blank piece of parchment. Then, figuring he had pressed his luck enough, Gorb shoved the rest of the scroll tubes to Thorol, and then Gorb went into the inn's common room. And here, Gorb jumped up on the bar and offered to buy drinks for all the inn's patrons. His only requirement being that they had to sit and listen while he sang sea shanties. So, hey, free drinks is free drinks, so all of the patrons accepted Gorb's offer. So back in the back room, the rest of the group debated on what to do with those remaining 4 scroll tubes, and no one really wanted to open them because they all remembered what happened to Varys when he opened what turned out to be a trapped scroll tube back in the Hamlet. And what happened was, as a reminder, it exploded in a fire trap, and Varys lost many of his belongings, including his spell book, which was a hard blow to him. So ever since then, the characters have been very leery of opening scroll tubes. And then finally, Thorol asked Nio if she could cast detect traps on the scroll tubes, and she did that, and 2 of the remaining 4 scroll tubes showed as being trapped. So the characters opened the 2 that were not trapped. The first one was found to contain a scroll of protection from magic, but the second one held a map showing the location of a fire giant lair, presumably the home of this aforementioned King Snurry Iron Belly. And the map also had some cryptic symbols drawn on it next to the map showing the location of the lair, but the characters could not make any sense of those, at least for not for right now. There was also some other magic items and weapons that they had looted from the Frost Giants, and so they used the opportunity here in town to have those identified, and they divided those up among the characters. And another thing was that everyone advanced to 9th level now. Also, Varys and Gore bought a couple of highly trained guard dogs, and I have in my house rules for if you're willing to spend more money, then you can buy, in this case, guard dogs, which are very well trained and respond to a lot of commands. So both Gorb and Varys paid top dollar and bought guard dogs for themselves, and you can see them pointed out here in the screenshot along with their names. Another thing, now that they've reached 9th level, Varys, as an elf, gained access to 5th level magic user spells, but he didn't have any spells to add to his spell book. So I allowed for a random roll of one 5th level spell that he could purchase from the local sage. And the result that he rolled up was the spell Animate Dead. So Varys purchased that from the sage and put it in his spell book. And then also, while they were here in town, the characters replenished their stock of bulk supplies in preparation for their next adventure. So when everything was finally ready, the characters used that magic chain from the Hill Giant Fort again, and they were transported back to the exterior of the Frost Giant lair. And but now, since the place was deserted, they quickly re-entered and just returned directly to the Jarl's private quarters, to that teleportation portal that they had found. So they started exploring around that area, and eventually they found a stone ledge high up on the wall next to the portal. It was high up on the wall for them, but it would be a height convenient for Frost Giants. But Garrett used his thief abilities and climbed up to the ledge, and he discovered a lever mechanism as well as a large iron chest. And Unfortunately, Garrett foolishly opened the iron chest without first checking for traps, and he was rewarded for his carelessness by taking a face full of poison gas. So Garrett fell off the ledge and back down to the cavern floor and was lying there turning blue in the face and foaming at the mouth. But luckily for him, Gorb stepped up and administered a poison antidote that he had actually been carrying around since the party's original adventure at the spider farm, all the way back from at the first episode in the series. So the antidote cured Garrett of the poison that he had inhaled, and he was soon back to normal. So the iron chest, now that it was open, it was found to contain some magic items which were distributed amongst the party members. And then next, as an experiment, the characters placed a barrel of torches in that circle while Garrett stood up on the ledge and operated the lever. And as soon as he did so, the barrel of torches disappeared in a flash of light. Okay, well, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, let me know what you think. I always like hearing from viewers. If you can, share the video. And anything you can do to help support the channel, I appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye for now.